Hi, I'm Mike Anderson, and I come to you live every day from Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy in South Africa. The wild animal I think is most underrated. I think buffaloes are the most underrated. They're so tenacious and ferocious, and also very, very protective of each other, which I find incredible. You know, sometimes people think of the big five, they just think of lions and leopards and other big animals, but I think buffaloes are pretty underrated. Join me on my next adventure in the African wild on channel 183 on DSTV.
Good morning and welcome to the dawn where the sun has just gone over the horizon. My name is Steve. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on board your live African safari.
This program features...
Welcome once again to the Sunrise Safari, coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. And what a wonderful day it is. Summer has definitely arrived, and my name is Steve Falconbridge, joined by Theo Island Style on camera, and we are, as always, very excited to have you with us on the Sunrise Safari. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them through to #WildEarth. Throw them in on the YouTube chat stream or use Twitch. Don't forget to use the all-important @FC so ladies can see your questions. Now, it is a wonderful, glorious morning. It is my mother's birthday today, Judy Falconbridge, down in Ramsgate. Happy birthday, Mum. We're wishing you a blessed birthday. If anybody else out there is celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday to you. Now, objectives this morning is to just drive around and see what the rain has done on Djuma, and to see how green it is, to see where all the pans are overflowing and what the water looks like. And thanks, everybody. It is marvelous to be back, and I use that word on purpose. Absolutely marvelous. So we're going to be looking for some tracks. Theo's also back from a spot of leave, although he's been quite busy. It's nice to be back in the bush and to see how the green is pushing through. I'll just give you a little moment there and listen, see if we can hear any of the birds.
Good morning and welcome to the Masai Mara. We have a beautiful, beautiful sunrise. We have vultures up on that tree, giving a nice silhouette. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Good weather today is about 13 degrees Celsius. Very, very nice. I think it's going to be a wonderful morning. See, vultures already up, because at this place we had lions that killed a wildebeest last night. So probably they're waiting to take turn and go and eat. We have a balloon way over in the background there. Some people are enjoying a nice sunrise as they're watching over the Mara and seeing the beautiful scenery here. Lots of wildebeest at the moment, elephants and other plains game. Remember, we're coming to you live, #WildEarth. For your question and comments on the YouTube comment section at FC. For young viewers, kids question at wildearth.tv. So we have about 2 species of vultures here. We have the Ruppel's griffon vulture, we have the African whiteback vulture, and over just here we have marabou storks who are walking up and about to where the carcass was, and I think some of the other vultures are resting up on the trees to take turn. Look at that. A nice morning. Everyone is ready for breakfast. Well, the lions had their kill, had their share, so they leave over to the cleanup squad. In the background, that is the Olololo escarpment. Very, very beautiful. You see on the ground is the marabou stalks are walking. Lots of vultures this morning. So as soon as it starts warming up, some of them are heavy. The feathers are still heavy from last night. Actually, they use that sun to warm their feathers and then become lighter, which helps them to fly off. So I'll drive just next to the carcass. The reason why birds do not fly at night, their vision is not as good as during the day. So we have birds that will really fly at night, like the owls. So other birds don't have that supervision like the owls. That's the reason why they don't fly at night. But at twilight, you see them flying over to their respective nesting places. So it's the reason why they don't fly is their vision. So let me drive a little bit closer to where the carcass was and see if there's some remains and how these vultures got to clean the carcass. I haven't seen hyenas yet, so probably maybe they came and had their share. As I'm going over to check the carcass, let me take you over to another live location. Jumbo, and a very good morning, everyone. It's another very beautiful morning. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have Bungay. We are already set out on our way. I'm going to look for the Owino Pride. Word has that they were seen yesterday, and that's my mission this morning. So far, it's just a wonderful morning that I have here, and maybe I'll just stop and show you the kind of view that I'm experiencing in front of me. It's just beautiful to share with you the kind of scene. It might look very empty as you see, but there's always something down there. Remember, these are the plains that were dotted and were choked with herds of wildebeest about a week ago. They have retreated back towards the Serengeti, and I'm gonna be heading towards that direction. Hopefully, they're somewhere before they cross towards the Serengeti. We still have quite a good number of them, but I'm in a very different area where they're not here. It's always, when you see like this, you think there is nothing, but I tell you, next minute you might be looking on those plains and there is something. It's just beautiful. The weather is wonderful. The oxygen is just so clean, it fills up your lungs. Yeah, so I'm going to continue on my safari. See if I can find you the lions before the sun gets really, really hot. In front of me, you can see the Olololo Syria escarpment. I'm going to be following that. Hopefully, before I get to the Serengeti, I'll be able to find, the lions. Over here, I have some animals for you guys to start with. Just set up quickly. Yes, we have some giraffes, my first animal of the day. These are the Maasai giraffes, and they love this area. It's very rare for me to come around here and not find them. I think there is a certain scrub that they love. There is one particular one that they are really attacking,
at this time of the year. They're really eating it, and it's flowering, and so they love it, and it's everywhere around this area. That looks like a male, and then the other one is a female. Do we have some more maybe? Yes, there is another one. Definitely that's a female. And this is sort of area where you find giraffes, an area with lots of trees and shrubs, because they are browsers. Remember to talk to us on #WildEarth. Questions and comments are really, really welcome. And looks like it's going to be a very hot day. Unlike yesterday, it was a little bit cloudy towards the end. This one might be a very, very hot day. Over in a distance is where I'm going to be going later on. But in between here and there could be something. That guy has buried his neck quite deep. Maybe there's something very tasty in there. Remember, giraffes are one of the animals that feed most of the day, spending over 20 hours of a day just eating. And also, they have some of the highest blood pressures of most mammals. The main reason is so that they are able to pump blood all the way to their head. Otherwise, if they didn't have that, I don't think we would have giraffes. It's an interesting adaptation that they have. They have a very large heart, about 12 kilos, that's able to pump the blood up. And I always, look at them upwards. The neck is thick, full of veins, so that the blood can get easily to the head. And you look at the legs, very thin, very thick skin, and very hardy bones, so that it can restrict the amount of blood that goes downwards. Otherwise, if they had too much blood going downwards, the legs would explode. Robbie Jumbo, thank you for your question. You ask if different herds or breeds of giraffe mate. They can. They can. If you put a male and a female of a Rothschild and a Maasai, they will definitely breed. And in the future, I think we are going to have a new species, because in fact in Kenya, in the northern side, there's two species that occur in the same area, and there has been rumors that there is a new breed of giraffe. Reason is they have mated. Rothschild and Maasai have mated, and so they can breed. It's no question they will breed. It's one of those animals, unlike antelopes, that would avoid one another. Giraffes will mate. And this is an animal that is adapted to, browsing. If you look at its head, it's very pointy with very long lips. Gives them the ability to pluck leaves. And if the lips are not enough, it's got a very long tongue, almost 18 inches. They can, pull it outwards, wrap it around small shrubs, and just pull the leaves off. It's quite freaky if you see it. We have a place where you can feed giraffes, and sometimes that tongue freaks people because it looks like a black mamba coming out of a snake box. Yeah, it looks like some cattle egrets flying from a distance there. Maybe they're heading towards where there's some buffaloes. Could be, maybe. Yeah, it's very quiet. I don't have very many birds calling yet. I think they're still cold, but it's a nice time of day to catch, animals out in the open. So I'm gonna continue on and see what I can find further up for you guys. I'm hoping that there will be something quite soon, because it's nice and cool, and everybody would like to be in the sun, because they've been out in the open for the whole night, exposed to all elements. So yes, let me take you to another vehicle while I look for something else.
Well, there's a lot of animals, funny enough, that can interbreed. In fact, I saw an interesting article about a caribou and an elk that had interbred up in, I think it was Alaska or Northern America. Anyway, good morning. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Paul this morning, and it is lovely to be back out on Djuma, a very different looking Djuma to the last time I was here. There certainly is a lot more vegetation. It's looking absolutely beautiful. It's at that kind of early summer phase where the grass isn't too long. It's just got that kind of green flush that's running through the bush, and the trees themselves are not too thick just yet either. So perfect time to be out and about. So I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks and to see what it brings. Now, at the moment, we're currently looking for Thandi and the cub. I know that they were seen yesterday and then lost somewhere close to where we are right now. So I'm just checking around to see if I can find any tracks for them. So far, no signs at this stage, but we'll keep looking. A series of undulating drainage lines that runs kind of parallel with where I am right now. And she often likes to use these as she makes her way kind of back northeastwards. I can smell that popcorn smell right now, so I just want to double check that there's no tracks on the road. Obviously, with all this rain, these roads have become so much harder, and tracks are that much more difficult to see, but could just be a genet that's urinated there. They have the same chemical in their urine that produces that popcorn smell, that 2-AP chemical, and so you will pick up a very similar scent from a leopard and a genet. And so sometimes you drive down the road and you think to yourself, oh, it smells just like a leopard, but actually it's a smaller spotted individual that has made that smell. But I'm surprised not to have found track. She apparently split up from the cub last night, so she dropped him off back where we were now, and then apparently she went off and no one could find them in the evening. So I'm surprised that she hasn't come back towards the cub. Often, when females leave them like that, they go off on a sort of nightly scent marking mission, maybe a hunt, and then they generally sort of loop their way back towards their little ones. So what I was counting on is doing a loop around here and hopefully picking up a track for at least one of them, if not both. If we had both, that would be even better, because that often then means that she's taking him somewhere else. And we know Thandi will be lethal at the moment with a little bit more cover to hunt in, and so I'm sure she's been stocking up heavily on scrub hares and the various poor duiker population that lives around these areas. So there's quite a number of different paths that come out here, and so these are the perfect places to check. That is a civet, not what we are looking for. Anyway, we're going to keep checking here. Hopefully we'll pick up a sign of these two, and hopefully they won't be too far away.
Now, welcome back to the Masai Mara. We've come across this male lion. His name is Olalashe, and I'm sure they're the ones who had that kill. So the vultures have come in because the lions have moved off. It seems like he is in company of another lioness who is lying down on the grass. It looks like he's courting her, but the lioness is not happy with him. So it's a bit of shake-up where I can hear them growling. He has to be patient and court her until she's receptive. If not, he'll have to go another way. Previously, we had another male lion by the name of Splitnoff or Bob Marley, who was within this territory, and Olalashe was accompanied by another younger male. But since he's trying to court this lioness, he was not happy with the presence of the younger male. So I'm sure the younger male is somewhere within here. Big, mature lions demand respect from younger males and also the other pride members, including lionesses. And if that doesn't happen, then a fight will come through. So even though he's mature, he's big, and he demands respect, when it comes to courting a lioness, and if a lioness is not happy, he might have some blows and even some bites. Look at how big his mane is. The sun is shining on his mane, very, very colorful. Looks a little bit sleepy. He keeps on looking at her, scanning around. Or maybe there might be some other lions within here, but we can't see, we can't tell because of the long grass. This is how we always find these males in the grasses, because it's so conspicuous such that you can tell when a lion like that is in the grasses. And that sometimes doesn't allow them to hunt because of the stalking game. When lions are stalking, like the lionesses, because they don't have mane, it comes to an advantage for them since they're concealed in the long grasses. So if this male tries to go out on a hunt, he will be seen, so there's no way he can be hiding. Andy, thank you so much. He's only trying to caught one female, but there's another female that is showing concern and walking towards him, showing a little bit of estrus. But I'm not quite sure if she's ready yet, but he's only courting one lioness. So he's gone back to lying down, a little bit chilly, but the sun is rising. I'm sure it's going to warm up soon. So I wonder if the other lioness will come here, because yesterday I saw some signs that she was walking towards him, trying to be receptive, but he didn't even care much. He's only concentrating on or caring much on the lioness with the collar. But it's so interesting because about a week ago he was mating the lioness with the collar. But now the two working together. It's actually unusual sometimes when you come to find lions mating and then they split up and then come back again. So I'm here to find out if they're going to mate or maybe she doesn't want him around. That would mean that she's already conceived. So since nothing much is happening here, they've not walked much, they've not moved a long distance away from where the kill was and from where we saw them yesterday. So I'll carry on to find more game, see if there's elephants coming to the swamps, if the wildebeests have decided to come back or they're heading back to Tanzania. I'll keep you on an update. Clear sky, so it means that today it's going to be hot and there is no cloud cover, so it means that today it's going to be a hot day. So hope to see lots of activities, animals walking to the water holes because of these skies not having a cover. Over in the distance I can see the balloon almost landing. So I'm driving towards the escarpment where I'm looking forward for more game. So in the meantime, let me take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody. We are trying to follow up on some lions that were calling earlier. Rexon from Djuma is a little bit further north from us. We're just checking our western boundary. I didn't hear them calling. Tristan did, but I reckon they're a little bit further away. It's always good to just check, see if any tracks have come in, and we found tracks behind us there of a male leopard that crossed out of Vuitela. I wonder who that could be. Mawati perhaps? Ukumuri? Who knows? Who knows? I've heard reports that Shadulu has possibly had her cubs on Simbambili, which is very exciting for that side. But I don't think her den has been found yet. Perfect time of year to hide a leopard cub away. The vegetation has really bounced back. Very, very green. Grass inflorescence are starting to emerge. It's going to be really nice for some plant identification soon, to get a little bit more light. But definitely my favorite time of the day. Just scouring around to see if we can find any tracks. Consultant Detective wants to know what I'm most excited to see. Well, Consultant Detective, it feels like it's been forever since I saw Tandy's cub. So that is something I would like to see, or someone. But then if Shadulu has in fact had cubs, well, that would be nice to see too. But I'm just looking forward to immersing myself in the vegetation, seeing which migratory birds are arriving back. I heard a class as cuckoo yesterday. So what migratory birds will be returning to Djuma in the next couple days, or the next 2 weeks. We've got 2 weeks to enjoy ourselves. So I'm just looking forward to the freshness. I've pretty much been in the bush this entire time. I've been in Hoedspruit, staying in the wildlife estate. So I've been immersed in the bush and I've watched the rain. It rained for a solid week. And now the fruits of the rain. Looking forward to some wild flowers. The trees producing their fruits as well. And of course, as I said before, the birds. So probably going to miss the baby impalas, so that's going to be only in middle November, maybe late November. But the European bee-eaters have arrived. The yellow-billed kites have definitely arrived. I haven't heard another cuckoo, but the classes, and they can actually stay. They can actually overwinter. A lot of the classes, cuckoos will stay. So the migratory birds, looking to create a list for them. And just getting out and about. Theo, you're excited to be back, aren't you? Theo's been in Johannesburg this whole time, so he's very excited to be in the bush. And Theo saw this place at its death, really. Not a leaf, not a blade of grass, and now the greenness has returned. Still a lot more to come. I think Marcel said to me yesterday we've had 100 mils of rain, which is a huge amount of rain by October, which I think is incredible. Definitely the freshness of the vegetation now is lovely. It's going to get hot though. It's going to be a very warm day today, and don't forget we are live, everybody, and we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them through #WildEarth, or throw them in on the YouTube chat stream. Okay. A couple of little impala on the left-hand side. Trying to hide in the vegetation. I've got them there. They're very happy that the grass is growing back again. Impala, as we all know, are mixed feeders with the ability to change their diet. Here a brew, rattling cesticula, long-billed crombeck, chin-spot batis, red-crested quorn, Good question, KT. I've forgotten the exact wording. I do know it. But it is a very strange one off the tongue. Very strange one off the tongue. The Latin name. Apicerus melampus. Apicerus melampus is the scientific name for an impala. It's a very strange name, but they are so unique in their own right. Impala really do fit into their own category. They're not really related or very closely related to anybody, having their own adaptations. Extremely successful. Someone has even discerned that impala have not evolved for 6 million years. It's a very long time. That is a very long time. Sorry about the Game Drive radio. Wow, Rachel, that is a numbers game, I suppose. You want to know how many baby impala will survive till adulthood. Very hard for me to say, but considering how successful they seem to be, impala populations are seemingly always growing, so they do quite well. But what the success rate is, it's very hard for me to say. When the impala are born, you'll notice many of them are getting smashed by pretty much every predator around, and you think to yourself, oh wow, the impala are being decimated. And then next thing you find the little nurseries, and you see how many of them have actually survived. And once they survive the first sort of few months, they do quite well. Definitely the pressure on impala babies is quite high. November, December, January, maybe even into February. And then as sort of April, May starts to roll around, then it becomes more pressure on the males again as they're going into the reproductive rutting stage. And then in September, October, November time, there's definitely an increase in mortalities on the females. But it all seems to balance itself out. They definitely have an increased growth rate. But how many survive? I really couldn't tell you. When you find them in their groups, once the lambs have become subadults, you'll find an enormous number of them. It's easy to tell because of the size, especially the 1-year-old boys. You see the horn growth is all the same. You can actually see them in their little groups. But how many of them eventually make it to a breeding adult? I don't actually know. They are the prime food for all of the predators we have around here, from wild dog, cheetah, lion and leopard. And then obviously the youngsters are under pressure from large raptors as well as very large snakes.
Well, here I have one of our largest scavengers. It's a bird of prey, and it is the lappet-faced vulture. Look at that massive beak. This is one of our largest vultures, in fact the largest. The second one is the Ruppel's griffon, ballistic to the lappet-faced vulture. This is a bird that grows almost 50 inches in height. That is very long, and can weigh up to around 5 to 7 kilos, quite, heavy. And it's one of the few vultures that sometimes you find them solitary or in pairs in wooded savanna and open grassland, like where we are. That beak is capable of opening thick skins and cutting thick skins. So usually it has no problem if it finds a dead carcass of an impala or wildebeest. It is capable of opening. This lappet-faced vulture, their numbers are much lower than the other vultures that we find in Africa. They nest on top of a tree like that one. They mate for life and live up to around 40 years. So they live for a very, very long time. From where he is, he can see easy up to around 20 kilometers. Their eyesight is unbelievable. Angie, they rank all vultures as threatened, but I would push that further, myself, to endangered, because the numbers have been on the decline. Every year there's always something about vultures. There's always something about them being poisoned, being killed, and so they are endangered. They say they're threatened, but you phrase it nicely, they are endangered, actually, I would say. The numbers have been on the huge decline. Yeah, that's the beautiful view of the Mara that we have. Somebody is enjoying an expensive morning on a balloon. Apart from the lappet-faced vulture, we do have other species of vultures. In total, there is about 6 different types of vultures. But the lappet-faced vulture, it is the most common that you can find in the Mara year-round, because they nest solitary, like I said, and they don't need to migrate as much as the higher populated Ruppel's griffon and the African white-backed vulture. Very much like birds of prey, they lay 2 eggs and practice what is called canism, very much like eagles, where the older siblings usually try to kill the younger sibling, or if the first egg hatches, the new chick will try and push the egg out so that he gets all the attention. Usually the parents play no big role in trying to protect whoever is weaker. They usually go for the one that's trying to survive. He's been looking around, and I'm sure he can see his partner from a long way. When they're not really nesting, like breeding, sometimes they'll just stand on a tree like that or perch in a tree like that. Yes, he's looking at us. They perch like that and look for long distances, hoping to find something to eat. Remember, these birds can fly very high, and they can travel long distances, up to around 100 kilometers in search of food, and come back to their same traditional home every day. And that's very unique. He's enjoying the morning sun. It's nice and warm. I'm also enjoying it. Hey, Jambo Sasikazi, my friend. You ask, how long is their wingspan? It is very long, my friend. It's almost 6 feet. It is quite wide. 6 feet it is. And it helps them glide high. They can fly high, very high, up to around 28,000 feet. They've been recorded to fly that high. And that is, when they're moving from one area to the other. I'm gonna move further down, see what else we can find for you guys, but that was the lappet-faced vulture, one of our most common vultures. We do also have another one called the African white-headed vulture, much rare and very few. I'm gonna move further down. Let's take you to another safari vehicle.
Good morning, everyone. It is lovely to be back. It's also a beautiful morning. Any morning that you can start out like this is epic. It's another stunning morning here in the Tswalu Kalahari. My name is Maurits, by the way. I'm back after a couple of days off. Behind the camera is Glenn, as always. So yeah, guys, what we are doing currently, we were looking for lions to start with. And we heard some vocalization. And luckily that pointed us in the right direction. So we came across the mom and the 3 babies. And it seems like she actually, the mom, showed some interest in a couple of red hartebeest that moved over the dune now. But I think she's going to start calling now. So definitely looking for other team members. I think yeah. See, there you can see the red hartebeest now as well. But I do think that mom is looking for the rest of the team. So obviously decided not to pursue the red hartebeest anymore. I think what I'm going to do is go a little closer, get on top of the dune and see if we can see some other lions. Maybe there is tracks for a male also going in this direction. But he seems like he's a little bit ahead of them. So it might be that she's looking for the male, or the rest of the pride might be in front. But yeah, guys, I mean, just beautiful. Sun is coming up over the mountains. Lions in front of us. It's good to be back. I hope that you are all enjoying it as much as I do. So hopefully the rest of the pride will be here in front. It's always epic to see them reunite, but what we're going to do is we're going to stick with them for a little while, and we're going to send you off to somewhere else. If there's something that happens here, we'll let you know, okay?
Welcome back to Djuma, and the vegetation is sprouting. The trees are pretty much all in new leaf. And the giraffe, who never really struggles with feeding, is feeding at the height of a kudu now. That's a sickle bush that he's feeding on. Prehensile tongue, prehensile lips enable it to grab the leaves around very spiny and uncomfortable branches. Oh, it's not actually, it's a black. Oh, buffalo thorn. But see, to pull his neck down like that requires enormous amount of strength. Now, the giraffe's got huge amount of muscles in the neck itself, but along the back of the neck there is a ligament that's attaching the neck all the way to the back, which means that naturally they're able to keep their head or their neck at about a 61 or 62 degree angle, sort of the normal go-to when you see a giraffe walking. That angle is the natural sort of position for a giraffe without any effort. It keeps it there with a very taut ligament. Oh, look how it's busy ripping the leaves off with its tongue. Now, if you had to stick your hand in there, you would bleed. A busy fellow. So they go through bouts of feeding where they'll just basically fill their stomach with leaves, and the giraffe are ruminants. It means they'll fill their belly and then either stand or they can sit down sometimes, regurgitate the cud and make it finer and finer. Very good adaptations, ruminants. They can feed in cooler times, and then when it's really hot they can go and hide in the shade. Although the giraffe are very well adapted to heat loss. Each individual one of those coloration patches on the body has got capillaries of blood. It's almost like a little solar panel or a heat radiator, and they're able to actually get rid of heat off of the body. And being quite a big animal, they take a very long time to warm up. So this is the time of plenty. This is what the kudu and impala are going to be very happy about. The vegetation has bounced back again. Impala primarily because the females are incredibly pregnant, and they need very good vegetation now to just keep their condition up and strong. And the giraffe, well, they're pretty much drought-resistant animals. They don't seem to do. See, that is the natural angle of the neck. Requires almost, or should I say, absolutely no effort to hold it in place.
Alrighty, guys, so it is absolutely confirmed that they're looking for one another now. We heard we don't know which one individual is a little bit further away. I do think it's that male, but we heard him calling, and as soon as he finished his vocalization, Mom over here started vocalizing again, and they were moving, I wouldn't say quickly, but on a steady pace in the same direction as where the vocalization came from. So I just told Glenn it's quite interesting to see this particular female with the older cubs away from the other Pride members. It's the first time that I actually see her since she's introduced the cubs into the Pride, that she's not with the rest of the Pride. She's been quite steady in her movements as far as keeping to the team members goes. The larger Southern Pride female, the one with the small cubs, she's more of a lone wolf. However, this particular female, you don't often find her all by herself like this. So interesting. There might have been something that happened during the night, or there might be nothing wrong at all. So it would be interesting to see what happens when they do find one another again. I think it's going to be quite cool. But yeah, these cubs are just incredible. They, well, as soon as Mom starts moving, they are running and playing and stalking each other. And now you can see they're just very interested in what is going on around them and with the vehicle. The mom is starting to call again. As you can see, guys, it's not a full vocalization like a male lion would do for territorial purposes. This is more, I can hear the others calling in front of us. Yeah. So this is more just contact calling. You sometimes find them also just doing like sounds like that. That's more when they're in close proximity to one another, or when a mom is calling. Guys, that is just incredible. So that was now a full vocalization to tell the others that she's over here. But that shorter contact calling, the ones that she did earlier, that's just to let everyone know where they are and see where the others are as well. So I'm pretty sure she's not going to stay here for too long. She might start moving in the same direction as where the other vocalization came from. There is a waterhole where that vocals came from, so I do think there's maybe a male that lies as it's lying by the water, or he might still be moving, but it definitely seems like she is looking for different Pride members. So Gail just had a question, why do the females mate with lions outside of their pride? Gail, so we have, with the lions, lioness, they form their own separate groups of prides, or a group of females, and then the males, they form coalitions, which they then, when they're strong enough, they take over a territory, and depending on how strong they are and how successful they are, they'll then have a territory that's either large enough to have more than one group of females in it. So going over to, let's say, 2 territories of female prides. So you often get where there's a male that has a territory that's small enough to only have one set of females with him, and then you'll find them almost forming like a little family structure where the male is with the females and he's not with anyone else. However, in our particular situation, we've got 4 males that roam over 2 prides of females, so it's not like they are bound to one another. The males will mate with the females that are ready for mating when they are in the same area. However, you won't really find, or not often find, male lions mating with females where there's other dominant male lions present. Let's say young boys or so coming into a territory mating with females, and that's not those females' dominant male lions. That very seldomly happens. However, it is the bush, so you can't say never. Believe me, I've done that once or twice, and then you come around the corner and Mother Nature proves you wrong. But yeah, male lions have their own separate territories. Females have their territories, which is what causes them to mate sometimes with male lions that have other females as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, or if that's how you intended it. Like this particular female, we saw her mating with 3 different males before she fell pregnant. They were all in the same coalition, so it's not like it was from different male coalitions and the bloodline was unrelated and so on. But she had to go through the process of mating with 3 separate males before she fell pregnant. As you can see, the female is very set on what is happening in the direction where she heard the vocalization. What we might actually do is, I'm pretty sure they're going to continue just walking along the road here. We might actually go a little forward to where that waterhole is and see if we can't see how the dynamics look over there as far as the pride, or maybe only one male, or however, who was calling on that side. But yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful morning. And the lions like this dune, guys. This one in particular, I think it's more for the view. I would understand that completely, but it's also the main pathway between 2 waterholes. So good for hunting, it's a very straight road, so good for patrolling territorial boundaries and those, within their territory. So Raymond, we just had a question from Raymond. How long does a lioness stay in estrus? Raymond, that typically, so it will differ from female to female, just because, the developmental stages of each individual will be different. But typically you'll find that they are on a very much like human cycle. So once every 28 days they'll go into estrus if they don't fall pregnant, and then it will be for about 5 days, more or less. Don't get me wrong, some of them are only 3 days, some of them are only 2. So, but the average, from what I've seen in the bush, is about 5, where they start going into estrus, and that's when you'll find the male, going crazy, trying to find this female, and then just as they find one another, typically that's when they go into full estrus. But yeah, if she doesn't fall pregnant, she'll go on a like a 28-day cycle of falling pregnant, going into estrus every now and again. That has to be the best sound in the bush. And there the other one is replying now. It sounds like they're coming closer. Ah, this is just incredible.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, lions. This is the best way to start off your cycle again. So guys, I mean, you won't be able to feel it, but just to give you an idea of how powerful that vocalization is. We were sitting in the vehicle now, we're about 20 meters away, maybe a little shorter, maybe 15 meters away from this female. And as it is a female, they obviously don't vocalize as loud as like a male lion. You know, the lungs are just a little smaller. But when she was vocalizing now, I could feel the vehicle's floor vibrating underneath my feet. That is how loud of a vocalization they put through. I mean, as you can imagine, if you were sitting on the vehicle here now, if the vehicle's floor is doing that, imagine what your insides will be doing when there's a lion vocalizing like this, not 15 meters away. Incredible. This is so cool. And I'm so happy to see the cubs are doing well. I was hoping to see them as soon as we came back, but to see them in such good condition, this mom is doing a great, great job. Especially with it being her, we believe, her first litter of cubs. She's proven to be an incredible mother. Hear the little ones talking. And they're just at that stage now where there's always something happening with the little ones. I mean, look at how he's going in for the kill there now. So Safari Kitty, thank you for your question. What is the survival rate for first time, or for cubs with first time mothers? Typically the percentage of cubs, lion cubs, even leopard cubs, let's say big cats in general, the survival rate of cubs up until 2 years is 20%, so only 1 in every 5 makes it. With a new time or the first time mother, I do think that survival rate goes down a bit. Let's say it goes down to 10%. Just because, with her being there for the first time, she's, I wouldn't call her stupid. She's just not as experienced yet at things like choosing den sites or knowing to be with the cubs every day to, feed them and things like that. So when she goes out to hunt, there's always a slight possibility for them to be in trouble. Maybe she chooses a den site too close to a hyena den and the hyenas discover them. They won't leave any cub alive. Something like a snake. Around here we've got the Cape Cobras that lives in holes under the ground in burrows. So that could be a determining factor. If she chooses a nice thick bush and she doesn't know that there's a burrow of a snake in there, unfortunately, those little cubbies moving around there when she's gone is going to be a problem if that snake comes out to bake in the sun or so. So not very high. Unfortunately, the survival rate for first-time mothers and for their cubs, I want to say is at around 10%. And remember now, this is a broad spectrum that we're talking about. It's not just this particular female lion that we have to consider. It's all of the lions in Africa that we have to think about. So that evens things out a little bit. You obviously get good mothers that from the get-go have it dialed in, and she raises 3 out of 3 in the litter, and so, but then other females not so much. But yeah, guys, I think what we're going to do, we're going to go look for the others that's vocalizing and see if they're not maybe moving this way.
Welcome to Treehouse Watering Hole. A bit of a water survey this morning, see how the water is doing out and about. And found a few helmeted guinea fowls cleaning themselves. Definitely looking quite nice. Nice and full. Definitely could get a little bit fuller. But always a nice place to check for animals because, as we know, they like to come and drink, but there is water all over the place at the moment. All the little puddles, ponds, pans have got water. So at this time of year it becomes exceedingly more difficult to find animals because they're not as reliant on the more permanent sources. They still need to drink, but they're able to access it from pans as well as from the vegetation. Animals like kudu and giraffe, for example, get a lot of the moisture from the vegetation that they eat. This little pair of guinea fowl giving themselves a good little groom this morning. You've got to look best for your Friday, preparing for the weekend. Wonderful place to come and stop and have a little coffee. Do you fancy a swim, Theo? Not today. It's definitely going to be warm enough for a swim today. I can feel the temperatures already quite warm. We started the game drive off without a jacket on. You know it's going to get very warm. A black-crowned chagger in the background. Stuck in bed, I'm almost certain there's some catfish or barbel. I don't know what else might be in here at the moment. There's no access to any other water source. And barbel are able to survive underneath in the mud. Last year this dam didn't dry up, but the year before it did. But I have seen a few little movements underneath the water of what must most likely be a fish. But crocodile-infested waters are definitely one that has lots of fish. It's why we don't see any crocs at Buffelshoek Dam. And we haven't seen one here. These two are both cut off from any permanent source of water, and also the migration of catfish. Catfish can actually move across land to a degree, very well blessed with gills as well as lungs, so they're able to actually breathe oxygen in a very, very unique sort of strategy. But I'm thinking there are, I don't think there's very many. But I did see something popped up earlier that seemed to be a fish, but I wouldn't say there's much in here in the way of fish life. Probably lots of terrapins, lots of insects. Okay, well, we're just going to spend another moment here seeing who comes down to drink.
From the water pond to our vultures who are resting and sunning up, there was a carcass just around here. It seems like so much of it has been eaten by the hyenas. You can see that vulture actually warming up. See how they spread their wings and face towards the direction of the sun to warm the feathers. Wow, what an interesting way to warm your feathers. Some are leaving to find more food. NGN, thank you for your question. Vultures, yes, they get along. You can see right now that is one species, the African whiteback vulture. But sometimes during a meal, they might be fighting off just because everyone wants a share. But definitely they get along. But sometimes you find the pecking order where the lappet-faced vulture, which is the biggest vulture, actually demands some respect when they're feeding. So you find that he will be fighting them off to keep them off a little bit, but they always get along. If you're not for these vultures who perform the important ecological role of cleaning up others' leftovers, then we'll have had a big problem. These scavengers have a long feather necks, which are perfect when they're thrusting deep into a carcass. Because they make use of food that is normally scarce and scattered, they have evolved the ability to roam widely. Because you find sometimes lions can kill over at the escarpment by the river, so they will be roaming out widely. And so they need less energy. So what happens for them to use less energy as they're patrolling over in search of food? They have to catch their thermals, which is a low energy or a means of doing or flying off without using extra energy. So their thermals will help them soar up in the air when they are in search of food. So the pecking order sometimes comes in when you find that the large, heavily built lappet-faced vulture, which is not present here, flies in and at a very low altitude in search of food. So the pecking order sometimes is because of how they sever the carcass with their massive bills and get to the bowels. And then the other ones will follow in. But these vultures, the lappet-faced vulture, are always aggressive. You see what's happening there? But these are two one of a kind. They are the African whiteback vulture. But you can see the hooded vulture. You can see the one to the right. The hooded vulture. So that the hooded vulture, the last ones to be on a carcass. They use their narrower bills to peck the scattered fragments or pick at the scraps left on the bones. Is the one walking to the left now? Yes, there's another hooded vulture. So that means this carcass has already been devoured. And the presence of the hooded vulture means that they're the last ones on the carcass, so they will be actually the ones who clean the entire carcass very well. It was not a big meal because of the look of their crop, which is not protruding. Because it seems like the cleanup squad has done so much of a cleaning. I'll carry on to a different place in search of more game as I send you over to another live location.
Well, as you guys can see, we've managed to have a bit of success. We've found Tandi's little one, which I'm super excited about. It's been so long since I've seen her cub. The last time I saw him was, I think, end of May. So he's, well, more than trebled in size since the last time I've seen him. But he's being a little treat. He's just kind of lying fairly close to the road and is being super relaxed at this stage. We've been sitting with him for a few minutes now, and I was surprised at his initial kind of movements. Generally, when you find cubs on their own, there's no sign of Tandi that I can see at this stage. So I suspect that she's not here. I mean, she could be lying in this thicket somewhere and just can't see her. But generally with cubs of this age is that they'll normally, when they hear a car coming or they see you, is that they try and just kind of hide themselves a little bit. But he's sat dead still and stationary, hasn't moved at all, and seems fairly comfortable. I mean, he is watching us a little bit, but he hasn't kind of flattened his ears out and gotten to the point where he's kind of got a hunched profile where he wants to sort of duck away. And so we're just sitting quietly with him and just seeing if Mom is around here somewhere. Now, at this age, he can be viewed by one car without Mom. So those of you that maybe are a little bit concerned, it is okay to watch him by himself if it's just one vehicle at the moment. And especially in daylight like this, early morning, it's not something you need to worry about too much. At night is a very different story altogether. We know that at night there is a lot more threats to a cub of this size, so hyenas and lions. So generally you wouldn't view him at night without Mom. But for now, it's okay. Like I say, we're in a warm part of the morning. Most of the other predators will be settling down, so it's an okay time to be with him. But isn't he beautiful? He's grown up so much. What is immediately noticeable, though, with this particular cub is how much lighter he is than the rest of the sort of Karula Tandi lineage. Tandi generally produced cubs that were quite gold in color. So if you look at like Kalamba, Wabayiza back in the day, Bahuti, all of her previous offspring, even Kuchava, they've got a much more golden coloration, where he is a lot lighter. He's almost got a sort of whitish appearance to him, which is partly due to the fact that he's still little, so he's still quite fluffy, and that will, those longer white hairs will start to shorten out and his coat will even out a little bit, and you'll start to see him not appearing as fuzzy and white as he is now, but there's definitely a much lighter coat pattern than what I'm used to seeing from Tandi's little ones. But you can see now he's perfectly relaxed. He's kicked his legs out to the side, and that's always a good indication that a leopard is relaxed with your presence. Oh, what a treat to find him. I'm so excited. It's been, like I say, far too long. I've spent a fair amount of time actually in the sands of late, between doing stints with WildEarth and various other things, and have missed him every time. So I'm super excited that we're going to get to spend at least a little bit of time this morning with him. I suspect there'll be a few vehicles that will want to come here, so we won't be able to spend all morning, but any time with him is going to be good time. Now he'll just sit here patiently like this,
waiting for mom. He'll know that mom will eventually come around. Ultimately, they were just on a kill yesterday, and so he'll sit here and she'll go off and do scent marking patrols as well as try and hunt. As soon as she finds something, or she feels like she's been away for too long, she'll then move back into this area, contact call him. She knows she left him here somewhere. Once she finds him, then from there they'll move on and carry on. He's not at the stage now where he's being denned anymore, so he doesn't have a permanent den site that he's going to be living in. He's big enough and strong enough now to climb trees and move around, and so generally what she does is she leaves him in a spot that is normally quite nice in terms of its ability for him to hide. So thickets like where he is now, and then she comes back and fetches him, so she won't spend too long away. But if he does move down into a dense, thick area, I'm not going to follow him. Ultimately, the idea of what we're trying to do at the moment with this cub is to habituate him to vehicles, and so how we do that is by sensitive game viewing practices, and so spending time with him, but not crashing around and making him try and find hiding spots is the only way to view him. And he looks like he's going to go behind a little thicket there. I think if we just go down the road a little bit, we should be able to see him quite nicely. It almost looks as though he's stalking something. So we'll reposition. Hopefully we'll get another clear view.
So alrighty guys, this is the two boys that were calling in response of that female with the cubs. I have to be honest, there's quite a bit of line activity in the area at the moment. Just as we came across these two, there was also another one, whether it's male or female, I'm not sure, calling about, I want to say, from these males about southwest of where we are right now. So definitely not the one that we heard earlier, but yeah, the one lying there on the right hand side, he is my favorite male in this coalition. You'll see when we go closer on him, have a look at the tip of his tail. He's missing that little tuft of hair on the tip of the tail. Could have been bitten off, or it's difficult to really know what caused him to lose it, but that's a very easy way for us to identify him. He's also got a very particular face, almost like a pit bull, but he's the most dominant boy in the coalition, so by far the most impressive male that we have around here. The one on the left hand side that was busy drinking water, he's the least dominant one out of the four. So you can see his mane is also not as beautifully dark and full, for that matter, as the one on the right. He's also got a wonky hip. So, I mean, if you just look at that face, he's not in as good condition as the one that's lying down. Still impressive though, don't get me wrong, still beautiful. But the one lying down is just in a different class. And there's lions calling everywhere. You can see them looking around. I think they're struggling to know which direction to go in, because there's lions calling from all different directions. A bit of a complaint there. Maybe telling the ladies, make up your mind. We want to know where to go. See, this is what I was talking about. Oh, guys, that was just special. That was incredible. I mean, you can't ask for a better explanation than that. And what I wanted to say was, there in the beginning, you could just hear him call the first male, just going that, ooh, ooh, that, you know, almost like it sounds like almost like they're complaining before they go into their full vocalization. In this particular case, he was just warming up the vocal cords, I think. But you'll sometimes find them just doing that when they are closer to one another and they don't need to talk as loudly as like a contact call. I did hear the female with the cubs calling as well in the distance while these guys were at the end of their vocalization. So I do hope that she actually gets up and starts moving this way. I don't think she'll stay there where we left her. There's not a lot of, you know, shade or so to lie in during the middle of the day, however, which we have plenty of over here. So it would be great if they head this way. See the cubs playing with the little ones a little bit. Oh, this is just amazing. The cubs playing with the males, I mean. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Too much activity. Not necessarily from this boy though. He knows he's the most handsome one around here. He doesn't need to walk around to find the ladies. They'll come to him. Ah, this is beautiful. Typical of the So Marion just had a question. What does it mean when they roar like this? Marion, it's a number of different things. You know, it's difficult to really tell you. I've asked the lions. They never tell me what they mean when they do vocalize. But, you know, there's a number of different things that it could mean. When they're vocalizing like this, as it is right now, the males are definitely, you know, calling to the other lions which are vocalizing around here. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're having conversations about how are your day and what's the plans for today and those types of things. It's more to get back into contact with one another. Also, when males vocalize like they do like now, also when they're moving, it is like a territorial stamp that they put down to remind all the other males in the area, young boys and old boys and nomadic males and so on, that this is their territory. Also, just reassuring the females a little bit to know that they are still safe. These guys are out on patrol. They're still safe. They don't need to worry about a thing. Females, when they call to one another, you'll hear them vocalizing like the males did just now, that full vocalization when they're far away from each other. And then that would be also, you know, with them also being territorial animals, the female lions, they also actively patrol and mark their territories. So you'll find them vocalizing as a means to tell other prides to stay away. But then mainly you'll find the females contact calling with one another. to find each other after a hunt, or just to find one another after they've been split up, maybe to go to water or not. And then you'll find them contact calling with mom and cubs. So it's difficult to, in words say what they mean exactly when they vocalize like that. But as best we can, we understand it, that sometimes when they vocalize, it means they are pressing their territorial rights. Sometimes when they vocalize, they're talking to each other to know where one another is. But it's difficult for us to really, conclusively say, this is what this male lion just said. I am of the opinion that these guys that vocalized just now that's more for telling everyone where they are so that they can get into contact with one another as far as meeting up again goes. This guy looks like he's got a little limp. I saw when he got up now something resembling a little wound underneath his left front. I think it's in the armpit or just on the arm itself. When he moves past now, we'll have a better look. You can see he's definitely not walking comfortably. So possibly either a hunt that went wrong, well, not necessarily went wrong, but you got an injury as far as that was happening, or maybe a tussle with the females, or something like that.
To keep tabs on our little boy, but he's chasing a dyke, or he did chase a dyke, which is why he got up just now, and so he's now sniffing about all over the place, looking around, and, well, just being a little leopard cub in many respects. I'm trying to keep my distance as much as possible, but it's difficult to keep him on camera and keep distance because he's still little and he ducks down behind the grass a lot, and that makes life quite tricky. But he's just here on my right hand side. I can just see his back now. He's incredibly relaxed, all things considered. Obviously he is moving around and kind of going in different directions. There's a termite mound that's just up ahead, and I'm hoping that he's going to go up onto the termite mound. So you can just see his little white tail through the thicket. And like I say, he's sniffing, he's looking. I think he's been chasing and stalking all kinds of things during the course of the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if francolins and scrub hares and squirrels have all felt his wrath over the course of this morning. Let's go forward a little bit and just try to get that bush out the way. The termite mound is in the direction that he's walking at the moment, so I'm hoping that he's going to come out towards it. Unfortunately, though, there are quite a few vehicles that want to see him, and so we're not going to be able to spend too much more time in this area. We're going to have to make way for others, but he's just watching us there. You can see he's a lot more in the open now. So when he's in the open and he feels like he's not behind something, then he gets a little bit more kind of crouchy and he sort of lies down. As soon as he feels like there's a bit of blade of grass in front of him or any sort of sign of a bush between us and him, then he's a lot more relaxed. And that's very typical behavior of young leopards when they're on their own. They generally, as long as they feel as though there's something between them, they're quite happy to move around quite calmly, and that's just due to the fact that they know that their camouflage is that good that if they hide behind something, they generally don't get seen. That's why, like I say, also with us, we're not putting 20 vehicles into these sightings or 3 vehicles. It's because at the end of the day, what you're trying to get is that this cub understands that we're not hurting it, or we're not chasing it, or anything like that. And so it's important to just basically slowly move around him, get him used to the idea of a vehicle moving, and you just rotate the vehicles out one at a time. And that allows for much more gradual habituation to the cub. It's an important part of what we do out here is ethical game viewing. And you can see now, look at that, just us sitting quietly with him for the last little bit. He's now climbed to the top of a termite mound where he's giving a sort of open view of himself and is not in any way cowering. He's standing up tall, and that's all just him getting used to the car. And so the more that we do this, the more he starts to become like his mom, and will allow more vehicles into the sighting, and we'll be able to kind of view him at a better way later on in life. The problem, though, is, of course, because he's a little boy, is that the chances of us getting decent views of him later in life is probably going to diminish, because, as we know, most male leopards will distribute out of their natal territory and they will start to move into other areas. So it's always the worst part about spending time with young male leopards is you get attached to them and then they disappear into other areas, and that's always a tough thing to do, because they generally are characters. I'm yet to meet a male leopard of his age and up to around 3-4 years old that isn't entertaining and fun to watch. And I can see that little tail tip disappearing over the back of the mount. Oh no, there he comes out to the side there. All right, well, like I say, we're going to have to give some others a chance to view this cub. If he's still around later when they're done, we'll try and come back. But what an absolute treat to spend a bit of time with him this morning. All right, so it seems like there's a bit of a technical difficulty, but you're back with us. We haven't had time to move at all, so we can still see our little cub's face behind all of the thickets. And like I say, I mean, I know it's not the best view of these things, but that's the part and parcel of it, is like sometimes you've got to ensure the animal's welfare and well-being more than, getting a beautiful shot of them. And so you got to be patient, and you just got to give it some time. And this goes such a long way. If we sit here like this and us talking and, the car giving the space that it needs, this next time we come along, he's not going to feel nearly as threatened by us or anything like that. And he's going to just go about his business. And so it's important that we spend time like this, even if sometimes you can't see yourself very well. Your mere presence, I mean, he knows full well that we're here at the moment. They've got incredible senses, these cats, and so sometimes you just got to take that step back a little bit, but so cool. I'm so excited that we managed to catch up with him on our first morning. I was hoping he would be around when I heard that Thandi had left him here and kind of snarled and told him to stay. Then I knew that theoretically he should still be around, and especially because we didn't find any tracks of her and him leaving the area, that he still had to be somewhere close by. And luckily for us, Paul spotted him next to the road, which was cool. All right, now he's disappearing behind the mound, of course. Okay, we're going to get other vehicle into the sighting and carry on and see if we can maybe go find Mom. In the meantime, let's try and see if we can keep view of him.
Well done, Tristan. Well, Tristan's found exactly who I want to see. I haven't seen that little boy in months. Well, everybody, we found one of the Wigs, Mr. or Mrs. Wig. I'm not really sure, but very exciting times to know that they are nesting again. I actually come into the area to see if I can find the nest. They're nesting on the ground, just on the bank, somewhere around here. We found one of the adults perched in the tree, only because the birds were making so much noise. Spotted the eagle owl. And just moments before arriving here, we heard the characteristic call of the red-chested cuckoo. So it's my first red-chested cuckoo that I've heard of the season. I shall play it for you if you want to have a little listen. Afrikaans name for it is called a pitmevrou. Very hard to see. You don't often see a red-chested cuckoo. You hear them, you don't often see them. But the birds are not very happy with the presence of this eagle owl. We've got hornbills Go away, birds. All very upset. Oh, I just heard a classes cuckoo. Now the cuckoos are all arriving back because after the rains cause insects to bloom or to hatch from their eggs, and cuckoos are exclusively caterpillar eaters. This eagle owl doesn't seem to be too concerned though with all the noises. Must be a horrible existence though. If you get spotted, you just get shouted at until you disappear again. That's why it looks like he's had 4 cups of espresso. I'm wide awake. So birds can often be very good at helping you to find these predators. They will harass them as much as they can. Stealthy, silent hunters are not as good a hunter when they've been spotted. They rely heavily on their camouflage to remain undetected so as to catch their food. But once seen, all predators that are shouted at often move off. You might have just heard the high-pitched whistle of a Wahlberg's eagle there. Hello, beautiful. So I'm guessing the nest is nearby. Trishala was chatting with me this morning. She told me where it is, but you have to really know where it is to know where it is. So it's just on the bank here somewhere. I'm presuming, seeing as that adult, when we found this adult, that's where it was. It flew across to where you saw it just before. Greater blue-eared starlings now shouting at this owl. So it's just, one of the adults would probably just be on the egg somewhere just here on the bank. Sure, we'll find it eventually. There's a starling. You see that below the eye, the covert there, very, very blue. Okay, well, we're going to spend a little bit more time with our birds and see if we can find this eagle owl nest.
One of the most rarest vultures in Africa, the Egyptian vulture. What
He seems so confused. Well, sorry about the technical difficulties there. Now back with our eagle owl. There he goes. Back across again. I don't know what he's trying to do. He's a little bit lower there. Oh, there are 2 there. No, it's just the one. No, they are both there. There's one there and one off to the up on the right. I'm going to just move forward. Let's double check if, they are both there, which means the nest is, I'm sure, very nearby. Let me move up and we get to see both of them. So it must be on the bank here somewhere. I'm sure Paul, who's with Tristan, knows exactly where it is. There, you'll be able to see both of them now, hey Theo? It's probably just up here. Makes sense. Both owls are there, both of the wigs. Obviously, they spend a fair bit of time incubating. Neva, yes, well, generally the large birds, so storks, geese, herons, owls and eagles, raptors, generally mate for life. That's the general way it works. So yes, they'll mate with the same individual year in and year out. They form life bonds. When you hear the term monogamous, it generally means they will be with one partner for at least a season. But your larger birds, definitely for life. Unless, obviously, death do us part, then they might find another one. And we've been seeing this pair around the same area for the last 2 years. It's been very cool. And they're hoping to just try and avoid being spotted by these birds, but there's nothing for it. They've been spotted, and they hope by remaining inactive that they'll eventually just go undetected. Kentrell, yes, I'm not sure if you noticed, but at one point the owl got annoyed there and it dropped the ear tufts. So they can actually change their shape. The ear tufts are basically just extensions, or they're just feathers on the top of the head. They're not actually ears themselves, and they do change them. And I saw it before. It was getting a bit annoyed with the birds around, and it changes the angle and position of them. You see, he gets a bit annoyed, turns his head. So sometimes the ears are completely straight up, or the ear tufts, and they're brown-hooded kingfisher. And then they can see he's a little bit. First saw him.
From the eagle owl to our river horse here, who are resting in the water, they'll take turn in the day to rest in the water, and in the evening they'll be out to go and graze. Seems like the water level has gone really down. As you can see, the riverbed there, actually on the edge of the riverbank, you can actually see where they've been walking around. It's dry here in Kenya, so that's why most of the rivers are falling dry. This river really doesn't get super dry, but at least the water levels go down, which is a good thing for the water life that depends on this river. So we have fishes, we have these crocodiles, we have hippos that depend on the Mara River, as well as people who depend on the Mara River upstream. So if you're not for this river, then we'll have a big problem across this ecosystem. You see some Egyptian geese who've come to pay a visit. They're drinking, but one is grooming himself. These Egyptian geese, they'll always pair for life, and they do a very good job when they're raising the goslings. you find that most of the time the female will be super noisy, while the males keep on going like shh, 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 trying to stop them from their noisy behavior. Actually, that one is feeding. Because the water levels have gone down, so the vertebrates and the crustaceans that are in the river will help other birds who come to feed on this river. You can actually see that the water levels has gone down. Actually, that hippo to the left is actually lying down. Seems like just a few, and hippos will always prefer the best spot where the bottom is level and where the water is not so torrent. Oh, the Egyptian geese have gone again. The super territorial, so any other Egyptian geese that will come to this territory will be fought off, so they don't welcome intruders into their territories. So they'll pick a spot where they'll be nesting and always coming back to that particular area. So across over on the river bend there's some other hippos. Seems like there's a bit of a clash. Yes, the mother is not happy. They'll not tolerate younger bulls or other hippos closer to their calves. See, that one has submitted. Seems like that is a good spot where they've all rested. Yes, you don't want to get near to a hippo's calf. That mother is not happy at all. And that's sometimes why we always see hippos with scratch marks on their bodies, because of those canines act very, very sharp towards each other's skins, despite their skins becoming or having been so thick, about 6 centimeters. Those canines can penetrate on those skin, and the wounds inflicted can sometimes be fatal to near death. Oh, it's still going after him. Mom is not happy at all. He's actually been forced to go into the water. Now, as the water levels decrease in the rivers, lakes, the hippos keep on moving, so they'll seek suitable spots where they'll rest. So it seems like this water level has gone down, so they've actually picked a bend where the water is actually not as fast. Oh, still going after. Yeah, that mom is not happy at all, and the calf is also running. I mean, look at that mouth, how wide it is. That's an aggressive display when they're pushing off the other members of the pod. Until that one submits or walks away, mom will not be happy. And that's the reason why hippos are termed to be dangerous. The way they open their mouth, they have that super heavy or big bite force. I've seen hippos going after crocs. I've seen hippos going after lions. So they'll not tolerate anything next or near their young ones. So as I was saying, when these water levels decrease, hippos will move along the rivers or lakes for a suitable spot. Rosemary, indeed, happy to see that hippo interaction there. So sometimes you find that rivers or lakes will decrease water levels. And these hippos sometimes will be forced to migrate to another spot. So we find that there's competition always when these water levels decrease. And that's why you find fights come about all the time when the water level decrease. So because everyone has concentrated to that particular spot, because it's not as tough as compared to other parts of the river, because the water is not as torrent, and at least a good place where they can all fit in. But if that keeps on going, if the water level keeps on subsiding, then they have to actually fight off other younger bulls, especially the big bulls, will not tolerate the younger bulls. So you find sometimes hippos walking over long distances for suitable place where they can find refuge or become a second home for them. Another thing also, when the water levels get super high, when this river gets full and water gets torrent, they also have to walk out of the water because they can be washed downstream. It's a cleaning time for the Egyptian geese. It's a good time to print feathers and to clean. I still can't see the crocs here. I wonder where they've gone. Maybe they've gone downstream to a suitable place away from these hippos. So I'll carry on to a different area as I take you over to another live location.
So, okay guys, not a lot of activity around here anymore. There's some springbok coming down to the waterhole. This male is looking at them at the moment. But the two boys have now split up. Each of them chose their own shady spot to lie down in. The other one is a flat cat. But you can see just there where those big trees are, there's some springbok coming in. Now I doubt that this male will try something with them, but he's definitely interested in what they are doing. This boy, well, with springbok in general, they're quite nimble and quite fast, so you don't often see lions going for them. They might try, but they don't often succeed. Let's say that rather. For the springbok out here, it's more things like the cheetahs that go for them. They love the springbok, but for the lions, not so much. I'm pretty sure they'll enjoy their meat. It's going to be very tasty meat because the springbok is such a picky eater. So they only go for the best quality leaves and the best quality grasses. So very tasty meat. However, still not the easiest animal to pull down for a lion. They need about 20 kilometers of speed extra. And don't get me wrong, I mean, they're fast. The lions can charge at 80 kilometers an hour, maybe not a male so much. He'll probably clock around 70, 75. But for the springbok, they're just a little bit too fast and most importantly, too agile for the lions to take them down. You can see he's definitely interested in what is going around him. I think there's a bug bugging him at the moment, maybe a fly or a lousefly or something like that, but not quite, going flat as we normally see them do this time of the day when it starts getting warm. Yeah, that's the flies that's busy bothering him. There's just something about a male lion that makes my heart pump a little warmer. So impressive. You can't say they're beautiful because, and they are, but these guys are impressive. We just had a question from Short Do many lions die from infections? Not as much as you'd think out here in the bush. If we had to be out here getting a thorn in the foot or, a cut on the arm or so, might be a lot more dangerous for us. For lions, they have to have quite a big scar or injury, which cuts deep into the flesh, which they can't keep clean, by licking it and so on. The power of that saliva being applied to wounds being licked by the lions is so important. I don't think we even realize how important it is for them to be able to clean their own wounds like that. So you do find lions dying of infection. However, the main causes of death is most of the time fighting, with one another, either being killed in a fight or being injured in such a way that they physically can't continue for, let's say, another month, impairing their ability to hunt, or their ability, to do a lot of things, running, walking, just get to water, dehydrating, those types of things are bigger problems for lions than infection. Not that it's not a problem for them. They do need to keep that in mind. However, it is not one of the main causes of death for lions out here. A little scratch also is not really a problem. Like I said, if there is infection taking place, it has to be a deep cut in possibly a spot where he can't necessarily reach with his tongue, and they can't clean it properly, and it's maybe wet and damp during that time, so there's a lot of bacteria starting to breed. So with our drier climates and also the cold winters, we go to -8, -7 degrees Celsius during winter. That also has a very limiting effect on things like bacteria and carriers of bacteria around here. We also don't have as many ticks. There we go. So yeah, sorry, just had to have the king finish his conversation. We also don't have as many ticks around here, purely because of the fact that it's not wet enough during summer and it's very cold during winter, so not a lot of them survive in this environment. But to come back to your question, infection is definitely a thing that is a factor, in the bush. However, for lions particularly, not as big of a factor as it would be for, myself, living out here 24/7. Yeah, guys, him vocalizing like that now, it's quite uncommon to see them vocalizing at this time of the day. With it warming up now, they wouldn't necessarily want to, spend that energy in such a way. As the air heats up, the sound also doesn't travel as far. But I want to say the main reason why he's just put in that this vocalization that he gave right now is just to let everyone still know that they're here at the waterhole. So that female with the cubs can always join, and I'm pretty sure she will this afternoon or evening. And some of the other lions that were vocalizing in the area also might come and join them this afternoon or later on. It's a good spot for them to be in here, if they want to meet up with the other lions, because it's quite central in the territory. and, well, there's water, which is always a big attraction. Nice shady trees as well, big shepherd's trees and camel thorn trees and so on, so perfect spot for them to just, spend the day, not doing much. I love the look of this male's mane. It almost looks soft, when you have like I almost I'm not comparing them with one another because I don't feel like you can, but a toy pom or a Pomeranian dog, for those of you who have felt their fur, I think this male's mane feels very much like that, maybe a little rougher, but you get the males with a different hair growth. Some male lions have manes that clot up and they just look, I want to say, dirty, the hair all the time. And then you have other boys like this guy that looks like he just walked out of the salon. We just had a question from Nebulana, can lions purr? Yes, I've heard them doing that, especially with the cubs. You'll find them doing so. So I haven't seen males doing that or so. It's like a soft growl almost. So, with them being cats, I do feel like they can. I've heard the cats, the cubs especially doing it. But it's much louder than what you expect from your house cat, So whether it's an actual purr or like a soft growl, that I'm unsure of. But I definitely hear or have heard purr-like sounds coming from a lion. But it's not a sound that they use often. It's when they communicate, it's more that soft, almost a moaning vocalization. When they are just talking to each other, when the cubs are talking to the mom or they're playing with each other or so, that something more like that. I don't speak lion as well as I would like to, but you don't find them using that almost like a purring sound. This guy looks like he might come towards us now, just stretching a little bit. But yeah, you don't find them using that purring, growling sound as much. That soft, almost like an intimate communication. When they growl, it's normally quite loud. You know their intentions. It's more to, bring over the emotion of dislike. And when they vocalize, then, we've been hearing them the whole morning now. It's quite impressive. And even better when you have him calling like that and now walking as if he wants to come and climb in the car as well. Let me just get my... Yeah. That's just special. He might go and lie down there with his friend. We'll see now. Guys, now you can see to a certain extent what I meant about the hip. When he's walking with his left hind foot, you can just see he's not walking in the same way as what a normal lion. Not that I mean anything about a normal lion, but he's throwing that hip out just a little bit more than what he should. And as you can see, he's in good condition, so it's not affecting him in any strange way. But he's an older individual, so I think that hip is going to start causing some trouble in the near future, maybe.
Welcome back to the Mara, and we're still with the hippos. We haven't left. It seems like a good resting place for those hippos. Because the water levels are going down, we're experiencing the drought, where the drought season is on. These hippos have been playing up and about. These about 6 of them have also been fighting, pushing over one another. We've been entertained by these hippos. Now in drought, hippos pack together in the remaining waters. Under these crowded conditions, fighting becomes more common, and that's the reason why we saw these 6 pack fighting and pushing over each other. If the losers are not killed, then they have to be driven out of the pool and have little chances of survival. And that's the reason sometimes we find hippo kills out in the open, because when they are driven out of these pools, they have to walk out and go to the land, where they walk over through the terrain to find for mini pools, and sometimes they'll be forced to walk into a mud pool. So this is how survival sometimes can be fatal. Hippos appear to be very reluctant to leave a pool sometimes, and when it comes to that matter, they have to be pushed off to an uneven riverbed where it's a little bit rocky, where the water is torrent, and just because they don't want to leave that water. So when that comes to effect, the little water that remains of the mud pools, it makes them to walk a long distance away to find a new pool when their old one has dried up. But how they find the new pool is a mystery to me, because it's so dry. Sometimes they have to walk even kilometers and kilometers away. So the survival sometimes can be a little bit tricky. See, some of them are resting there, sunbathing. But sometimes you find there's some flies that irritate them, some biting flies called the hippo flies. Thank you so much for your question. Yes, I've seen lions taking over hippos, not once, not twice, but so many times. But that can take a while before it's successful, because look at the size, look at how big they are. And when a hippo opens its mouth, it's almost a meter, and those cannons can inflict big wounds to the lion, so they're also super careful. But there was a lion pride that had specialized in taking down hippo. Yeah, I've seen that happen, and it's actually very, very interesting to watch as they fight when they're chasing the hippo, because the hippos always want to go back to the water, so they always try to push out the hippo for not getting into the water. I can see one walking closer to these hippos, so nice sound there. That is how hippos communicate. So younger bulls will tend to come to join the rest of the pod, and if they're not tolerated, then they'll be pushed off. Submerged in the water right now. You can see them walking. It's getting closer. So that hippo has a young one, and I'm sure he's actually walking that young one to safety, because these big bulls sometimes can be a little bit rough to the calves. Thank you for your question. The reason why the hippos are facing one direction is because the bank is a little bit sloppy on towards the edge. And because these hippos don't want to keep on waking up and coming back to the water, so they are resting while enjoying the sun and still breathing out. Because when the water level is high, they have to submerge and come up for air. So in this way, they are resting and enjoying the air without being in the water and coming up for air. So that they're using their shins or their head to rest down on the slope of the bank, where it's a little bit easier for them to do both sunning and to breathe. Seems like a young bull, so he has to walk away from the big bull. I'm still going to hang around here to watch this beautiful interaction as I take you over to another live location.
Well, finally I get to find these great beasts quite a long way. Believe me, it hasn't been easy to get to where they are, but here I am in the plains of Masai Mara, and I've found this beautiful herd of wildebeest that have decided to graze on the last bit of grass that is left here. Most of the places I've driven on, they have diminished this grass that usually covers all these plains, and it is just beautiful, the setting here. The Olololo escarpment at the back, the nice big fig trees dotted here and there. So the water table here is a bit far, that's why we have the figs, so they can hold onto the ground firmer. And the wildebeest are just milling around, enjoying the grass. Yes, and a few zebra. Remember, it is time, I think, to speed goodbye to the great migration. They have been with us for the last almost 4 months. It has just been a privilege. And we still have quite a good number of, these beasts dotted everywhere around our area. But the big herds have headed back. And so it is always nice to see such a herd that's still, it's still here. Remember, they do travel quite long distances all the way to the floors of the Ngorongoro crater. That's where they go give birth after being on a round journey of about 500 kilometers. Through their journey, they mate, they eat, and try to survive. Many die during the river crossings, which is the highlight and the ultimate experience of the whole migration. Some of them die of exhaustion, others get hunted by hyenas, lions, and leopards. With them always comes the zebra, the Bachel's zebra. That is a very good-looking stallion. I'm sure he's experienced, he's done this quite a number of times. The Bachel's zebra is the only one we find here in the Mara of its kind. And they say that no two zebras are the same. They're very much like our fingerprints. He looks very healthy and looks like he's going on a mission. Many wildebeest, especially females, get to wean their young ones while they're here, and so they mate at the same time, and they go give birth in the Ngorongoro, very close to Olduvai Gorge. It is said the soils contain minerals that are good for lactating females. So immediately they give birth. Usually the oncome of rains, follows. And so that grass must grow with a lot of nutrients that those little ones need from the milk they take from their mums. And that's why they give birth there. Not only that, but in the near surrounding areas, it is as flat as possible, as the name dictates, Serengeti, which means open, endless plains. You can see as far as 100 kilometers, that is almost 68 miles, something like that. You can see that far flat. So it is easy for the wildebeest to detect predators. So it increases the chance of many making it. And believe me, it is something to, worth saying, because everywhere you see is just one standing, one in labor, one suckling for the first time, one taking a sprint for the first time, and one, getting eaten as soon as it has landed on the world, and one being stalked. It's just a drama. Everywhere, it's just something unbelievable. They're usually brown for the first few weeks, and then they start getting the black color. Here, it looks like they have made a slight stop. Maybe they had a very hectic night running through the plains, being chased by hyenas and lions, and so they have decided to make a break. Maybe they just had a drink somewhere along these lagas. Lagas is a washaway made by water, and so they have decided to stop here for a bit, maybe regain some energy, some much needed energy, and then they're going to continue on. From where I am, the border is not very far. Warren, well, depends on how long, this, zebra will live. But I would assume that once an adult, once they're a year, they would actually make their first migration, and from 18 to almost 20 years, they will continue migrating. So as long as they live, they will migrate. 18 years onwards, they will migrate, because they will migrate every year. And here, looks like we just have a handful of zebras, so majority of them have gone back, or either maybe haven't reached where they are. Well, that one looks like it's got some company of oxpeckers. Must be very, very full of flies or ticks, and the oxpeckers are doing their job. It's a symbiosis, which can be mutualism or parasitism. Parasitism is when the zebra or the buffalo has got a wound, and instead of the oxpecker leaving the animal alone, they continue eating on the wound, making it septic and bigger. Eventually, the wound might get infected, and the animal might succumb to the wound. That is parasitism, because they have accelerated the wound so that they died. And mutualism is when something is on the skin, a tick, a mite, and they have gotten rid of it, so everybody has benefited. The bird has eaten, and the animal has made it tick-free or mite-free. Looks like they're just standing there, so I'm gonna drive a little bit closer towards them. Maybe they're much more further down where I don't see. But believe me, where I am, it's like paradise. I'm the only one as far as I can see, and it's just super beautiful. It looks like they've stretched further down, so I'm gonna stop slightly up here so we can experience how many there are down here. Yeah, there is one that died on the road. It looks like that was the beginning of the migration. Actually, there are not as many as I expected, but it's a nice herd. Lots of young ones. Bungei will show you the small ones off to my left over here. There's quite a good number. Yes, we're just gonna show you these small ones that I think made the first migration. Very successful. Congrats, little guys. And now they're heading back. Those with the sharp horns, were born early this year, and they've made the first migration. Well, I'm gonna leave you with that sight. Let's take you to another live safari vehicle somewhere as I head on.
Welcome back from the grasslands of the Mara to the woodlands of Chitwa, where we had a bird for you, and of course the bird has gone behind the bush. Can you still see it there? I can't. Let me move up an inch, maybe we'll get to see everybody's favorite, the African hoopoe. Hello, where have you gone? How rude. How rude indeed. I can see him now, Theo, at your 9 o'clock. He's just moving through there. Can you see him? On the ground. A little bit more right down. He's there somewhere. There is a bird moving around, everybody. The African hoopoe. With a very specialized feeding strategy. Of course, he's now become invisible. He's quite an easy bird to see when he's in the open. Long probing beak, which they use for probing into the ground, looking for insects. And we call it a specialized feeding behavior because they're able to access food when other birds aren't. We find a lot of birds feeding on the ground, but many of them are just pecking at the ground. And the hoopoe itself actually is able to dig into the ground and to almost use its beak like a needle. Sewing machine type needle. And any insects that might be just under the surface are accessible. Here just on the left on the ground you'll see there's a red-billed buffalo weaver. Not a specialized feeder at all. This one has to walk around and physically peck things off of the ground. Seeds for the most part. These are the guys that make those very big, characteristic ball-like nests in the trees, normally on the northwestern side. One of the small five. And those of you who are new to the show probably heard of the big five before, and maybe not heard of the little five. Well, the little five, all of them have got a big five name in them. So here is the red-billed buffalo weaver. It's a black bird with white sort of on the wings and then a very red beak. Hence the name red-billed. Often find them in mixed feeding flocks on the ground. You can hear the rattling sticula making lots of noise. It has gotten a very windy, quite nice though, the wind, keeping us cool, but it makes animals rather skittish, as we know. And there we go, our bird has taken off, as we shall as well. So we went down to the watering hole, to Chitwa Dam itself, and the wind was just so strong. There was nothing happening. Even the hippos were hiding under the water. So we're making a turn around the sort of eastern side of Chitwa, hoping to maybe pick up on any sign of Sabui and her cubs. Posted some really nice pictures of her cubs on Instagram recently. If you haven't seen them, you should go and check them out. But Tristan's already had luck this morning with a leopard cub. Jealous, actually. who knows, around the corner, we might bump into something rather special.
Good morning, everybody. We are sitting here with a Senegal lapwing on its nest. Welcome to andBeyond Phinda. I am Kim, and behind the camera we've got Carrot. So we've just found this little lapwing sitting on his nest, and we're going to sit here with him, see if he changes his behavior or anything. I think he'll probably stick around because he's a little bit worried about us sitting here, so we're going to maybe give him a little bit of room, but we're quite keen to see if we can get a look at what he's sitting on, or maybe see a little bit of interaction between the parent and the other parent if he comes and gets involved. And these are extremely brave little birds. Even as we drove up, he stood up and spread his wings out to make himself look nice and big. Even against a big Land Cruiser like what we're in, he's still willing to kind of put up a bit of a fight, or at least try and scare us off of his eggs, which is quite admirable in my opinion. And it is the season for that. If you remember, a couple of days ago we were with another Senegal lapwing family with 2 youngsters. So he shouldn't be incubating for too much longer, and soon there will be an extra couple of fluffy little birds running around these beautiful open areas that we are sitting in. Kelly, I think that the average number is about 2, but I think they can have up to 3. So yeah, I would say generally about 2. The reason I say that, I haven't actually seen a little nest before, so I haven't seen the eggs inside of it, but when you see the little babies, it's normally in pairs. But the nests are quite interesting little things. I mean, even looking at him now, you can see that there isn't much to see apart from that rock that he's sitting next to. And generally, the nests are made to blend in with its surroundings. So those eggs will be very speckled and resemble the kind of debris that's around it. So they'll look a bit like pebbles or little stones, like the ones that you can see in the background of the screen. And even the little youngsters, when they pop out, have got some brilliant camouflage. So maybe we'll go now and see if we can find some of those little youngsters.
Senegal lapwings are very interesting birds, and sometimes in the Mara we find people confusing between the Senegal lapwing and the black-winged lapwing, which look kinda identical. But then that's a story for another day. So we have a martial eagle to the left and a black-headed heron to the right. It seems like the martial eagle, I love calling it the leopard of the sky, has something interesting there. He's maybe made a hunt. And because this is a swamp area, could be because he's drying up, maybe he caught up a catfish. Not quite sure what he got, but he definitely has prey. It might be a snake, lizard, frog. So sometimes you have to wait and see what they've got. So here in the Mara we have about multiple nest of these martial eagles. So around here, where you see those trees, there's a nest, and with this we call it the Mara River pair. We have multiple pairs around this area. These martial eagles are very super birds. We call them the apex bird of prey. Despite them going for fishes and snakes, they can also go for fully grown jackal. I've seen them fighting a big jackal. They can take a young impala, baby impala. And they cover a wide range of big territory. And intruders will not be tolerated within their territories. They have very strong, powerful talons. I like the way they hunt, actually in a very strong dive where they'll pick prey as big as their size, or sometimes even bigger than them. The heron is watching carefully because sometimes these birds can also fall prey to the martial eagle. That's a pond there, and when these ponds are drying up, these birds take an advantage. Another heron, another one, and another one. So we have lots of heron around here, so they're waiting for it to warm up. And when it gets hot, because these pools are getting dry and the water is shallow, so the fish, the tadpoles, will come up for shade when these birds spread up their wings to form something like an umbrella. And the other name we call these birds are umbrella birds because they'll spread their wings and create shade. So when the tadpoles, the fish, come for the shade, these birds take an advantage. Very patient birds, so they use that technique to hunt for prey. Despite them going for despite them going for fishes in the water, they'll also go for snakes. I'm still going to wait here and see what that martial eagle has caught. So I'll take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to Chitwa, everybody, where deer spotted a snake as we were moving past. Don't worry, everybody. It's a harmless snake, the spotted or variegated bush snake. Very commonly seen snake. There we go. Is his head moving? Oh, don't move away. There's the head. You see how green the upper part of the body is with the head? And then the lower part very brown. Very, very agile tree climber. So nice to see how contrast in the coloration is. You often find them very immobile like this on a tree, or stationary, should I say. No venom glands, so it's harmless to people. Very, very arboreal or tree living. Often found along fence posts, or as Theo found the one time trying to go into your room. Was it your room? Yeah. Nice big eyes. Feeding primarily on lizards and tree frogs. When we first came across it, it was actually lying facing towards us with its entire green part of the body elevated. And as we turned around, it bolted. So they're quite a nervous snake. But relatively camouflaged, especially the lower part of the body. The upper part obviously blends in with different parts of the tree. heard a bearded woodpecker there. Well spotted, deer. You see the tongue popping out the mouth. All snakes and lizards use their tongue for scenting, picking up all the senses around smells. It all goes in onto the tongue, goes into the Jacobson organ, top of the head, which then details all sorts of things. We talk about Jacobson organs in mammals, which is primarily a form of reproduction, but in snakes and lizards, it is their cue for pretty much everything. Tasting the air. There, I'm not sure if you can get this bird down here at 11 o'clock on the bottom, the very white one. Blackback puffback is in full display at the moment. Can you see him? Right down low in the bush there. Yeah, there he is. You got him? No, a bit more to the right on that log there. Oh, he's gone. Sorry. Blackback puffback. Oh, he's at the back there. He's flown off. But they're known as a sneeuwballetjie. Afrikaans, a sneeuwballetjie is a snowball. And when they display, they puff their back up. That's the name blackback. There he is. Blackback puffback. Middle of screen now, Theo. There's jumping. There he is. That is the female. Come in to investigate. Where did he go? Where's this beautiful male that I saw a moment ago? And he's all puffed up with a very white back. He's jumping around at the bottom. You're going to see him now. There he is. You see the white guy? Oh, yeah, look at him. How attractive am I? He's telling the lady. Oh, love is in the air. Now move forward slightly. The snake's not going to move, so we'll come back to the snake. Just move forward a touch so we can see him. You see him in the gap there, Theo. He's just a little higher than he was before. A little bit. You got him. I can't see him on the screen. He's right there. Oh, sorry, man. There's the female. She's darted. So he puffs his back up, and he looks like a snowball. And off the French name is boule de neige, which is a snowball in French. And apparently he's very attractive. He clicks, does his and then puffs himself up. That's obviously what the lady's looking for. The brighter in colour he is, obviously the more conspicuous he is. He stands out more and he's more obvious to predators. Oof, our snake has just bolted into a little crevice in the branch here. I do apologise for that, but we did manage to get ourselves the blackback puffback. So the snake has gone into the little crevice in the tree. If I go forward there, we might get that. There you go. You see him jumping around in the back now. Yeah, so maybe we'll get another view of this bird doing his display.
Around here, this martial eagle will have been happy because it would have just gone for it. And then if the puffback happens to see the martial, they'll all be alarming because the apex predator will go after anything small birds, snakes, rodents, and even fishes. Now, our martial eagles have not moved off from that spot. Remember I told you this is the Mara River pair, so they nest around here, just behind where you see those trees. There was a young one just about 4 kilometers away, but I couldn't get hold of it because it was soaring up in the air. So I wonder what he's got there. And why he's not eating, because sometimes you find that after sticking for a long while watching the martial eagle, they'll be comfortable, they'll be habituated, and they'll carry on with eating. But seems like still whatever he's got there maybe might not be dead. He's trying to kill it with the talons. But just wait, I'll be patient to wait and see. These birds cover a big range, and sometimes scientists have collared these birds, and one of them that was collared in the Mara actually went all over way to Tanzania, to a place called Mwanza. Mwanza is it's a city near Lake Victoria, which is about almost 400 kilometers away. And that pair roamed in the farmlands in that area. But after the research data was off, we lost track of that martial eagle. Sometimes they can be a menace to farmers because they take chicken and young goats. So they can I can say they're vulnerable. Good thing we're seeing the numbers going up of most raptors here in the Mara, because that tells you there's more rodents, there's more food supply for these raptors. So they're the ones that keep a controlled balance of rodents in our ecosystem together with snakes. Nothing much is happening, so I think I might leave him to enjoy whatever he's doing there as I carry on to find something else within this beautiful landscape. So I'm heading further to the east, where I think there were herds last night. So on my mission, let me take you over to another safari vehicle.
Well, that's one thing about the Masai Mara, is it is the most incredible landscape, and animals that dot it only complement it that much more. Anyway, we are on the search at the moment. We left Tandi's cub, obviously, and we picked up tracks pretty quickly after that of a male leopard and a female leopard walking together coming out of Little Gari. So I suspect probably Mulawati. The female is up for debate. It could be Tandi or could be Sabui, or maybe even Sabui's cub. I don't know, but we'll try and see. It looks like a very small track to me, so initially I thought maybe it was Sabui's two cubs, the male and the female together, but the male carried on north, and then that was for what looked like Mulawati once it came out, and then the female track has been going up and down and round in circles, and so we're just trying to see if we can find where she's gone. The last track I had was coming out of the Mulawati in the direction where we are right now, which is an easterly direction. From there, if it is Tandi, it's very quick to get to where the cub is. It's not far at all, but it's in an area where Sabui's been hanging around so much, just on that northern side of Twin Dams. So it's anyone's guess as to who the female is, but hopefully we'll have a bit of luck and we'll be able to find her. A lot of tracks down in that sort of southern part around Twin Dams and the Mulawati, all over the drainage line and on the roads. And we know that it's about the time now for Sabui's to slowly start coming into her estrus cycles again. It's maybe a little bit early for her, but maybe that's what's happening there. Or like I say, maybe it's the two cubs have gone for a wander together and came on. I don't know, but the female track is definitely the fresher of the lot that we found, kind of coming back into the Mulawati. So I'm hoping it's Tandi, and I'm hoping we're going to catch her going back towards the cub. That's why we're doing a big loop around at the moment, just to double check that she's not kind of come behind us, because we drove here early this morning, but maybe she's crossed over behind us, and we'll find her track going in that direction. So that's the idea with what we're doing. So no, not necessarily. Male cubs typically are pretty active, but females can be too. There's with leopards, it's very much a personality trait. Each individual is very different from the next. A leopard cub is not just a leopard cub. They all have their own personalities, and some are more playful than others. And so what I find generally is that the males tend to be fairly kind of boisterous and like to sort of do silly things, but you get the odd female that does it too. So if you take like Tiani, for example, so she's a female leopard to the west of us on Elephant Plain, Simambili. She was, as a cub, just as playful, just as full of nonsense as any male cub that I've seen. So it's not necessarily only a male thing. Females can be too, and then it also depends on how many cubs in the litter. Sometimes if you have bigger litters like 3, then one becomes a lot more kind of shy than the other 2, and that could be male or female. But typically if it's multiple sexes, the one male will outcompete the females, but it's really just dependent on their personalities more than anything else. Some are just more shy than others. And so you'll find that some males are boisterous, some females are boisterous, and vice versa. All right, hopefully we're going to have some luck. We're going to continue to search. The tracks are pretty good, so with a bit of luck, maybe we'll have some success.
Here we are, another beautiful setting. Some wildebeest, some Grant's gazelle, and is there any zebra? Yes, just a few. We'll be sharing that with you. Now I've come to an area where you can really see the beauty of the Masai Mara. Look at that. It's just some endless plains. This is what we call, savanna. And this area looked like, there was a fire. I'm not really a good supporter of the fire because it does kill a lot of little animals that we don't see, like tortoise. It has been cause of tortoise, disappearing in most African places. They cannot run very fast, so the fire does kill them a lot. And there's a lot of animals that hide here, field mice, snakes, and without banning, they increase, and so you see more birds of prey. I'm really grateful that in the last quite a number of years, there has been an increase in the raptors, since because, there was no banning. Looks like there's 2 guys there that are trying to square off. It doesn't look very much like a fight. It looks like some exercise or just some bonding, or it might get serious maybe. Remember, the wildebeest is also called the clown of the plains because they portray behavior. Dungeon girl, Jumbo, do wildebeest and zebra ever fight? No. There is nothing to fight about here. They're all grazers, so they don't fight each other, and there is enough grass, so there is nothing to fight about. If it was a predator and prey, it would be different, but here they're grazers, and they all live together in harmony. Actually, they do help each other in case of threat, because they both have good senses, and so living close to one another, actually, it's a mutual understanding where they help each other. Looks like those guys are really bonding. They're, really playful. They sometimes do fight for territorial purposes. When wildebeest, reach a spot and just decide to stay in an area for maybe 2 or 3 days, males do form small territories of up to 100 square meters where they mark their territories using their droppings and urine, and sometimes they can be very, very aggressive towards any male trying to intrude onto their small territory that is not fully permanent. Usually they try to lure females onto that territory and hopefully, mate with them. Sometimes they're not lucky and sometimes very lucky. So those kind of play fight or fighting does establish dominancy to avoid conflicts. Looks like they are very relaxed here. Same thing I said earlier, they could have been traveling throughout the night, and it's time to make a break. They both do migrate, and from the first year, Killian, Jumbo, and thank you for your nice question. You want to find out, if the migration has ended. When will it start again? Well, it has ended on our side here where I am in the Masai Mara. They have left a line that somebody decided that one side was Tanzania and the other side was Kenya. And so they have headed into Tanzania. And so it's the beginning of a migration for somebody in Tanzania, and they are going to be there until next year. Almost June is when we start seeing them here in Kenya. Towards the mid of June, beginning of July, we start seeing them approaching the border and crossing the border onto the Kenyan side is what we start seeing. So it is the end here, mid-October, and we expect to see them from mid-June, beginning of July next year. So that's how it is. Usually stay longer in Tanzanian side. The reason is the Serengeti is massive. It is very, very big. It's almost 15 times the size of the Masai Mara. So they have enough area to roam freely and for a very long time. And it's very flat towards, the southern side. So they have to get there to give birth. So they stay longer there because there is enough land to roam freely, down in the Serengeti. This area was choking with them for the last 3 months, and the grass has been eaten to the floor. Who do we have here? Look at this. We have superb starling. They are one of our most common starlings, highly gregarious, and they love being close to people. If you've been to some picnics here in East Africa, you'll always find them coming to stay around and pick up the scraps. It's a very social starling. Usually they have communal nesting and also communal, foraging, so you'll find them, many of them together. We just see the only one here, but definitely there is some more. It is called the superb starling, distinguished by its white eye and its turquoise or metallic blue feathers. So, and he's quite busy there picking up some little creepy crawlies. You can see he's disappearing on us and then coming up. Yeah, so it's really nice to see the superb starling. How it was named, I don't know, and who named it, I don't know, but it is just got superb colors. It is quite a distance away. I don't know if I'll be able to be quick enough to show you in my book. Let me see if I can find it as it feeds over there so that you can really see the nice colors that it's got. I think I'm almost there. It's still there, yeah, still busy. It's hard to tell between male and female because they're almost similar. And here I've got it. In my book, And here it is still, you can tell. So it is this one here, this guy here. See, superb starling. And that is an adult, the one I'm looking on here. Distinguished by the white eye and the white band on the chest. That's the first giveaway to this bird. There is a very close one called the Hildebrand starling, next one here. But the difference is the red eye, or brown, see that, the brown eye, and it lacks the band on the chest. So those two are giveaways apart from looking at the head. You know, this black, that is blue, but we're looking at the superb starling. It is a bird that is very widespread all over Kenya. The distribution map shows you there. So it's a very common, yeah, over here. So it's very common, yeah, superb starling. It's such a beautiful bird. It's got brown, white, blue, black, and yeah, those are the colors. Yeah, so let's take you back to the wildebeest, and I'll leave you with a sight of wildebeest to enjoy. Some of them resting, some of them leaving, and the beautiful view of the Olololo Syria escarpment. And let's take you to another different sighting.
Such a beautiful escarpment, the Olololo, with the wildebeest. Marvelous, marvelous scenes. Well, we spoke earlier about how there's water everywhere. And here you can see this is just a small little puddle, seasonal puddle. And this could have started off as a very small little hole in the ground by an elephant, or maybe even a rhino, or even just a track. And then slowly but surely over time, it got bigger and bigger. And it's a fair bit of mud in there. All that mud. So lots of animals. We actually stopped because there was a wasp busy scratching some of the mud here. Probably one of the potter wasps or mud daubers that's going to go and build a nest out of mud and then lay eggs inside. And many of those wasps will make a very sort of round, bulbous sort of nest, little bits at a time. And sometimes you can come and have a look, and there's just little scratches in the mud. Now, I'm trying to look to see if I can find any scratches, but I haven't yet. And they'll take those little bit at a time and build a beautiful little round nest, and then lay eggs inside, and then capture caterpillars, grasshoppers, all sorts of things, sting them, put them inside. And then when the eggs hatch, the larvae land on top of those insect organisms and then eat them alive. Well, we are in the summer now. It is time to give ourselves a little bit of luck, a little bit of war paint. There's a time of year, Theo, you're going to want some, aren't you? Now's a good time to know that it actually smells all right. This time of year, because of the rain, it smells quite good. If you find a mudwallow like this a little bit later on, when things are a lot more stagnant, the smell is going to be quite bad. So just be careful before you wipe that on your face. Or not. It's really up to you. Here's actually a little mark over here. It could have been, I'm not sure, very small. But swallows as well. This time of year, martins and swallows build nests underneath the eaves of buildings and underneath bridges and all sorts of places. They'll also take little balls of mud about the size of that little pinch over there, and they'll use it to build their nest and lay their eggs inside. So mud, this is a habitat type. This is a part and parcel of the environment this time of year, and animals that breed this time of year have designed their breeding around that. So wasps and many swallows and martins. So very, very exciting. What you'll also find, buffalo, warthog, and rhino. Love these little wallows on a nice hot day. I almost feel like I could wallow in it myself, Theo. Don't you? Amanda, I haven't seen any weavers yet here today on Djuma building, but I was in the Kruger Park last week and there were plenty lesser-mast weavers building along the riverbed. Many of them building. But I checked our little weaver nest section down at the bottom of Tundams this morning, and I didn't see any yet. So the grass is growing. This is what the weavers are looking for. They're looking for these long sorts of grass stalks like that, which they'll then weave into their nests. quite amazing actually how they do that. If you've watched them do it, it is quite a process. I don't know if I could use my fingers and weave this, and they do it with the beak. So beak is obviously a very well modified appendage, and the weavers are very, very good at breeding like that. So still very dirty hands. Theo, do you want to dip in? You're right. Theo's okay. Okay, well, we're going to carry on. Tristan's been trying to follow up on tracks of Tundi, so he's asked me to check this area. So it's always nice to check a little wallow like this, because she would have drunk here if she walked past. But the ground next to it, everybody, have a look, hit my foot. There's no way you're going to see a track there. I'm having to scratch. Now, if a leopard just walked there, no chance. But sometimes you will see where they come down to drink, where they've depressed into the mud there. Sometimes you can see that, but I don't see anything here. She wouldn't have had to have stepped too close to this water to have drunk. But that is the thing. That's why it's hard to find animals this time of year, because little pans and puddles all over the place like this, everywhere. Very good. Let's carry on. We've got our war paint on. We're feeling lucky. Tristan and I are going to be on a mission the next few days to track down Tundi, and I'm going to want to see her little boy, of course. Oh, can you see this rattling testicula here? Here, my 1 o'clock. You can hear him. In a young leadwood. So one of our LBJs, little brown jobs, they're quite easily identified by their call. Little brown jobs will often sit on top of trees to call because they're so well camouflaged that they need to show themselves to the world so that the ladies know, ooh, what a marvelous fellow. On top of the tree, he doesn't have a big white back like the puffback to display for the female. He has to sing and shout. The longer he sits on the top of the tree there, the more in the open he is, the more exposed he is, and the more chance he has of being eaten. So the braver he is, the better he survives, the more chance he's got of meeting a lady. And off he goes. Very good. The rattling testicula. I remember when I first started birding, the word testicular was a very hard one to wrap around the tongue. Testicola, testicular. Eat potato, potato. Onward we go, slowly north along this road on the eastern side called Drakensberg. This is an area that Tundi does spend a lot of time in. She's got her cub just down the road here on the left. Tristan's been on the tracks, a pretty fresh track, so it could be of hers. He also spoke about a male leopard. We had tracks of a male leopard this morning, if you recall, crossed out into Arethusa. Male leopards do travel much larger distances than females. They generally have approximately 3 females within their territory, so a much larger area to move around.
Welcome back to the Mara, and we've gone to a different spot of the Mara River where we come across about 5 crocodiles basking in the sun. And because the water level has gone down, you can see that some of the banks there are bare, and that's why these crocodiles have taken advantage to come and sunbathe. But later on in the evening, they'll go back to the water. Because these are reptiles, they need to get more warmth, more sun, because at night they'll go back into the water because they're cold-blooded. So during this time of the migration period, some of these crocodiles have gone into a feasting frenzy where they've had lots of wildebeest kills. But sometimes when these wildebeest are gone, they'll be eating on fish, vertebrates, and sometimes they can even eat up to crustaceans and mollusks. There's another crocodile there. See how they blend in very well with this environment. You might even think that's a rock. So this is the Nile crocodile. We have about three species here in East Africa. We have the slender snouted and the dwarf crocodile. So these ones live here within the Mara and across Kenya. Although sometimes these crocodiles appear similar to alligators, they have different sizes and how we distinguish between the two. When you look at that crocodile, the lower and the upper mandible are the same, while you find on the alligators, the upper mandible can be a little bit shorter, making all the teeth fit in their mouth. And when crocodiles close their mouths shut, you can see the teeth protruding on the outer parts of the lower jaw, which fall on the edges of the upper jaw. So these crocodiles have more webbed feet, which help them swim across these rivers. And our crocodiles here are more aggressive, like their relatives, the saltwater crocodiles. So thank you so much for your question. We only have one species of crocodile here in the Mara, running across all the way to Serengeti, the Nile crocodile. So in Uganda we have the dwarf and the slender snouted. So from the Mara going all the way across to northern Kenya, where we have Lake Turkana, we have the Nile crocodile. Sometimes when the rivers are dry, you find them migrating to small ponds where they'll be in fresh aquatic habitats, such as wetlands, and sometimes even salt waters. Very nice to see them actually relaxed on the edges of the Mara River. The reason is sometimes when you find crocodiles in salt waters is because they have a specialized salt gland for filtering out salt if they're present in saltwater habitat. Unlike their counterparts, the alligators don't have, or their glands cannot filtrate that salt if they happen to come into a salty lake or water body. So when they're out in the riverbed like that, sometimes animals come to drink water, and they have super acute senses which give them that advantage to make successful predators. The eyes and ears and nostrils located on the top of the head, allowing the crocodile to lie low in the water, almost totally submerged when the prey come to the water. They also have a very good night vision, mostly nocturnal hunters. So we find that when the cooler time of the night, that is when most animals take to the water. And that eyesight of these crocodiles helps them to be almost 70 to 80% successful when they hunt at night. I'll leave these crocodiles to relax and sunbathe and head off somewhere else to find more game. So I'm going to take you over to another live location.
We are sitting here on this beautiful open floodplain with a herd of zebra. They are just grazing on those beautiful new shoots of grass. There has been a little bit of action, that's why we came over here. And it looked like one of the stallions was sparring with another stallion, but we've been unable to kind of work out exactly what's happening because as we came round, they settled down. But just looking at the behavior, everyone looks pretty chilled, and what I'd assume is happening is it's just maybe a younger stallion, not quite yet ready to breed or mate with the females, and the male is just kind of, or the leading stallion is just showing that youngster his place, making sure he knows who's in charge. But, yeah, there are quite a few animals here. There's a few off to the left, which is where these guys are now heading. And the other thing that might be the case is that there could be two herds here. Often what happens is that herds are actually quite small, and if you see groups of more than about 10, it's usually a couple of herds together, so that also might be the case. It might be two herds together grazing in a similar area, and the two stallions are just making sure that they are aware that they each are in control of their own little harem of females. You can also see a wildebeest there in the foreground, and I'm sure most of our viewers will know that these species don't mind hanging out together just because of safety in numbers, and many eyes are obviously a good tactic for that. The more eyes looking out for danger, the more likely it is to be spotted before any trouble or real trouble can start. Yeah, it is some beautiful grazing. So we've just had the season's first good long rain. We had about a week and a half of solid rain. And it was a good kind of rain. It was like the drizzle, slow, which means that it seeped into the ground really nice and slowly. It didn't run off. So all of the grass and vegetation is really, really benefiting from that at the moment. So all the grazers and browsers are super happy with all the beautiful new shoots that are popping up. It's also a very windy day here on Phinda, so you'll see that the animals are quite kind of agitated, so they'll graze for a little bit, then get up and move around a little bit. Always on alert though, because their senses are quite dulled in this windy weather. And you can see some kind of arrow grooming there, or a little bit of self-grooming just up against the bum of another one. And if you look at that one on the right, you can see it's actually missing its tail. And that may be because, from this distance I can't actually see, but I think that will be the stallion of the herd. Definitely is a male. And generally that happens from fighting. Zebras will fight by nipping each other's rumps and kicking each other in the head, so they'll kind of fight top to tail, or head to tail, and sometimes their tails can actually be nipped off by one another. So often you'll see a stallion with a little stump of a tail like that, and it won't necessarily be because it narrowly escaped a lion. It'll actually just be because of fighting with other stallions. But you can see here it looks all pretty happy family. Not the kind of fighting that we actually came down to see. So whatever disagreement they had, they've obviously all sorted that out. Everyone knows where they stand now.
Welcome back to this side of the world.
So welcome back to the Mara. I'm still on my mission to find for more game. This is a nice habitat for cheetah. So I've come here primarily because of cheetah. Yesterday we saw a cheetah that had just made a kill and walking in the long grasses. So it was walking towards this direction. So I'm definitely thinking that he might be around this area. But because he was fully fed, so sometimes they will take a rest in the bushes, maybe under a tree like that gardenia. So I think this might be a preferred habitat, although there's no game at the moment. So carnivores sometimes walk long distance in search of food or prey. So when these animals move or migrate, you find a lot of carnivores walking around and moving with the herds. You find hyenas, lions, and sometimes even leopard will move from one area to another in search of food. So it seems like it's still quiet. Nothing much can be seen around this area, but I'm still crossing my fingers for an opportunity to see that cheetah. So in my drive to finding the oil, trying to get something else, let me take you over to another live location.
Well, here I have come across the birds, and it's a lovely little marsh that never disappoints. I always see something here, and today I'm very happy to see all these birds here. It's a combination of many different ones. For the bird lovers, we have the black-headed heron. We have two in this flock. There's one, the highest, the tallest bird to the left, and also the tallest one towards to the right slightly. There's only a few cattle egrets back behind it. Over there it is. That's a black-headed heron. And then the really white ones, the very many, those are cattle egrets. And then who else do we have, Bungay? We have sacred ibis. Beautiful, look at them with their long beak they use for probing inside the grass. And then we have the waterbuck. Who else do we have? More and more sacred ibis, black-headed heron, and Egyptian geese. Look at that. Quite a good number of them, and they're very busy. They're taking off one after the other. Here we go. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah, looks like it's time for a dip away from humans. Yeah, taking off. Those was Egyptian geese, and looks like it's a mother or a father just calling. You could hear the call. And the antelope in the middle there is a waterbuck, an animal associated with the water. They're highly gregarious in areas where there's enough food. He loves water, and you can tell he's really munching away that succulent grass in the water. They're very hairy. I think that is to maintain the heat so they don't get too cold. Yeah, so we have quite a combination of different species. I would call these the multi-species association, where they come together to join efforts, eat whatever is there, at the same time can easily detect danger. And most of them are standing still, so it tells me that maybe they've had their fill and it's time for a break. Just enjoy the sun, let whatever they have eaten get digested as, the day progresses. You can hear the Egyptian geese calling. Yeah, it's calling from behind somewhere there. That is the setting that we have here. Remember all these birds that you see in this little swamp? Oh, there is some more birds quite a long way back there. Beautiful, look at that. So actually the swamp extends beyond where we see. That is a female waterbuck, no horns. Phenac, you ask, how much could a waterbuck weigh? Yeah, it can differ from 200 to 300 kilos. It's in between that, so it's a huge antelope. It's very, very heavy, and they come in different herds. A bachelor, which is just males, and then a breeding herd, which could be a male and its young, some females. But here I see a male and just 2 females. Could be more in the bushes, maybe we missed out. And they're hiding inside the bushes. They are known to get into the bushes and cool down when it gets really, really hot. That long beak of the sacred ibis is used to probe inside the mud and to get or to hold on to find some frogs or mollusks inside, or fish. Here looks like they're at peace, they've had enough. I'm gonna let you enjoy that scene, and let's take you to another live safari vehicle.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody, where our small breeding herd has turned into a pretty decent-sized herd of elephants. And the mud wallow, that was sorry you lost us, by the way. I don't know what happened there, but they went to a mud wallow just on the other side of these elephants at the moment, and there's actually some more mud wallowing going on over there. And they practically destroyed it. Now they've come to... Those ones are busy tearing up some more mud, as we spoke about before, covering it on their face, some war paint for themselves. And when it's not so muddy, they will drink. It's a beautiful herd. There must be more than 40 animals here. I'm just going to keep quiet for a moment. Maybe you can hear some of the sounds. That one has almost got down the use of its trunk. Can we get it to the mouth? Nope. It's trying. There we go. So the mud gets splashed onto the body for cooling them down, and obviously the more mud that gets splashed, the more mud gets transferred away. And elephants will also use their feet to dig into this mud wallow to create more mud and to pick up more mud and carry more mud away. And that leads to these little, what started off as a small little muddy depression, turning into a very seasonal pan, which holds lots and lots of moisture. Well, first day back in the bush, and the elephants have decided to come and show themselves to us, which I'm very excited about, aren't you, Theo? Not just one, but plus minus 40, 50 elephants. Oh, one. You go forward here, Theo. At the back, there's one trying to lie down in the mud. At the back there. And the youngsters are trying to play with him. Oh, look at that. Oh, just love elephants all day long. We're busy doing something.
Have been radioed down for a while, so we need to check.
How marvelous is it to be back in the African wilderness? I'm super excited. Let's quickly go back over there before the action dies down. Elephants, elephants everywhere. Muddy wallows and the seasonality of the vegetation. It's all happening today. We look to focus a lot on that over the coming 2 weeks. who knows what we might find. It has been wonderful hosting you once again this morning, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed your experience out here with us this morning. I know I thoroughly have. The fresh air, the beautiful animals, Tristan finding Tundi's cub, and us with the elephants. We'll see you again this afternoon. Thanks for your questions and comments. Till then, good day and goodbye.
Africa is very special, and when you come down here, even when you're watching through our camera, the landscapes have changed from desert to bushveld to up in the Masai Mara where there's grassland. That means that the biodiversity changes as we move along Africa. And what I